Could Shane Bowen be leaving the New York Football Giants and be going to the New England Patriots to join new head coach Mike Vrabel and be his defensive coordinator? There's been a lot of rumors heating up, and we're going to break them down here on Giants Now. I'm your host, Marshall Green. If you haven't yet, hit that big red sub button, subscribe to the channel. We put out free, informative, entertaining videos every day on Big Blue, even when we're at the house on our off days. So hit that sub button and help us reach our goal of 100,000 subscribers. There's been a lot of talk this offseason already for the New York Giants of if Shane Bowen is going to be back or not as defensive coordinator. John Mara, following the last game in Week 18 against the Philadelphia Eagles, spoke to the media and did not really give a ringing endorsement of Shane Bowen. Said pretty much, I think the defense needs to improve, and I'm tired of seeing teams drive the field on us. So there's been a lot of talk. And then Antonio Pierce was fired as the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. And then a lot of people talked about him being the new defensive coordinator for the New York Football Giants. Well, sounds like we may be getting a little bit more clear of a picture on where Bowen may be coaching next year. Breaking news, Mike Vrabel is the next head coach of the New England Patriots. If you've been under a rock today, that did happen. And that's very impactful and that's very meaningful for this entire situation. Because Shane Bowen, before becoming the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants, was with the Tennessee Titans from 2018 to 2023. And from 2021 to 2023, in those 3 seasons, he was the de facto defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, coached by Mike Vrabel. They apparently have a really good relationship. And there's already been some rumors out there that he would look to leave the Giants and go be the DC wherever Vrabel lands. It is now in New England. And Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, one of the more tapped-in beat reporters, I would say, nationwide on the New York Giants, he just named Shane Bowen as the defensive coordinator candidate for Vrabel going with him to New England. So there is that. I think this is definitely a situation where Vrabel could bring a familiar face to New England that he had in Tennessee. But I also want to add what Garafolo said. He said in the video and the soundbite and in the TV clip that Bowen is on a short list pretty much of DC candidates and could be a name that Vrabel calls. Also said to be clear on the Giants DC Shane Bowen, my understanding is Brian Daboll is moving forward with him as his coordinator. My best read on it as of now is he remains in that role in East Rutherford in 2025. What that says to me is if Shane Bowen is wanted by Mike Vrabel, if Mike Vrabel wants to have Shane Bowen as his defensive coordinator, he's definitely going to listen, and he'll definitely, I would say, probably leave. That's my read on that. But to take it a step further, Garafolo pretty much clears it up and says, to my understanding, Shane Bowen is the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. They have not fired him. They have not been conducting any sort of background work on any candidates. And the only way that Bowen is not going to be the DC for the Giants, sounds like, is if he does leave to go be the DC somewhere else. As he says, Brian Daboll is moving forward with him as his coordinator. I think there is a chance, though, that he could leave, and I think that's something we all should be paying attention to. We'll make sure to keep you guys up with that. That's why I hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. As you guys know, or if you don't know, I think Shane Bowen should be fired from the New York Football Giants. I don't think he did a good enough job in his first season to keep that job in an offseason where there are a lot of good defensive coordinator candidates. I mean, you go back to the last cycle, and I thought last year's crop of DCs wasn't really that strong. And the Giants got their 4th pick on the guy they want. It's pretty well reported and pretty well known that they were not high on Shane Bowen. He was like the 4th guy that they wanted. They ended up getting it done. And when you pair that with he didn't do a good job, and now the candidate cycle is much stronger this go round, I think the Giants should fire him. We're going to talk about 5 candidates in a second that I really, really like. I want to hear from you, though. Do you think the Giants should fire Shane Bowen? Type F for fire, type K for keep. Doesn't sound like they're going to fire him, but it does sound like we could see something come out in the next couple of days as Vrabel starts to build his staff a little bit more about him leaving for the Patriots. And I think that would be a win-win for both sides. Giants don't have to fire him, and he gets to go somewhere where he's wanted a little bit more. I don't love the constant change the Giants have had at defensive coordinator, especially with how young this defense is. But I'd rather just get in front of the problem now than have to do it next year if Bowen has another bad year. So let me know, do you think the Giants should move on, F or fire? K for keep. Alrighty, 5 candidates that I think are more than capable and more qualified and just overall stronger candidates to be the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. First on my list is Robert Saleh, the former head coach for the New York Jets, was the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. That's where he made his name. They were the best defense in the NFL. They had the most talented defense, but also Saleh deserves a lot of credit for the development of some of those younger players. And he was a guy that in big games won big games for that defense. Fast, physical, downhill, and he brought that to the New York Jets. Unfortunately, they couldn't figure that quarterback room out. Injuries happened. We know what happened. And the stats show as soon as Saleh was fired, even this year, the Jets defense fell off a cliff numbers-wise compared to when he was there. So Saleh would be there. We have heard, though, here at Chat Sports that he is very interested in going back and being San Francisco's defensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator who was just fired by the Cincinnati Bengals, is high on my list as well. And I would assume he's high on the Giants list as well. Because in the interview cycle where Brian Daboll was named the head coach of the Giants, Lou Anarumo was in that interview process. He was a head coach candidate. He's got ties to the New York Giants front office. He was here in 2018, I believe, as a defensive back coach. So he's been in the building. He's apparently liked in the building. He has connections in the building. And Joe Shane liked him enough to interview him for the head coach spot. Cincinnati always had a strong defense under Anarumo, outside of this year. Injuries caught up to him. And what could go wrong did go wrong this year for the Bengals. I think Anarumo is a good candidate. He definitely makes my list. Outside of Saleh being my favorite, and really I don't think any chance he comes to the Giants, my legit realistic favorite is Dennis Allen, the former head coach for the New Orleans Saints. I think he's a really strong defensive-minded coach. And sometimes you're just a coordinator and you're not a head coach, and that's perfectly fine. And I think Dennis Allen is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Those Saints teams always had success under him. And really, once Sean Payton hired Dennis Allen back in the middle 2010s to be the defensive coordinator, that Saints team changed. They went from a soft, air raid, spread them out, put up points type of football team to smash mouth, in your face, nasty, fast, physical defense. That team always was good. He's known for developing young DBs. Giants have a lot of those. Dennis Allen, when it comes to thinking realistically, is my number one candidate for the Giants. Also was the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, then became the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. Didn't work out there. That's okay. Sometimes you're not a head coach. You're just a DC. Just like Matt Eberflus, who makes my list. He was a really good DC for the Indianapolis Colts. That's why he got the job as the head coach for the Chicago Bears. Has a really good relationship with Bobby Okereke. That's where he played his best football. And like Allen, I think he's a good defensive mind. Don't think he's a head coach, and I think he could be successful here. Last guy I want to talk about is Patrick Graham, former Giants defensive coordinator, was just the DC for the Las Vegas Raiders. Has not been fired, but with Antonio Pierce out of the picture there, he's on my list. Had some success here. Apparently still liked within the building. I thought he was really talented. Someone that I was a fan of. Didn't love the entire bend but don't break defense, but this was a guy that gets credited for figuring out Mahomes. Sitting in that too high shell. He's a good defensive mind. I think he's just a better candidate than Shane Bowen. There's a couple other guys as well. Jim Leonard is a name to keep your eye on. Steve Wilkes is someone that's out there as well. He's a good DC. That's 6 guys I'd rather have than Bowen. I don't wish that anyone lose their job. I think there's just better candidates available. And it's a really big season for Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. And I'm not sure they want to go into this season with a question mark at defensive coordinator. We'll see what happens. Does it go to the Patriots? Do the Giants make a change? We're going to break it down. Hit that thumbs up icon. Subscribe to the channel. And let's go Big Blue.